Hey guys, my name is VaulSC, hope that you're doing well. We're going to take a look at a game of Conquest, the last argument of Kings. It's going to be between 100 Kingdoms and Old Dominion. Me against my buddy Matt, we play very frequently, and this is going to be our first matchup on the new patch, where Old Dominion has become quite significantly better, in my opinion, and 100 Kingdoms has had a little bit of a shift around, a few things moved, but yeah, not too much different in terms of overall power level, but this game is going to be very informative about a lot of the stuff that's changed in the matchup, at least. I will say that. So, 2,000 points, let's get into it. It's going to be a really interesting game, a lot learned from it, and just follow along and enjoy. So the game itself is going to be on Breakout. This is a mission where there are 3 zones to capture, and the amount of points you get from each of them depends on what stage of the game it is. So first 4 turns and last 2 turns, there are bonus points for the sides, and then during the middle of the game, 5 to 8, there are bonus points for the center. But you can't control the center until you've destroyed the enemy objective that's on either side of it. So you see these A and B markers here. They represent each person's objective marker, which you've then got to destroy. So there is that. And there's no points for killing... Oh, there's 2 points for the enemy Warlord, but that's pretty much it. So we'll just jump straight into the lists. My list here is going to be with the Imperial officer running with the Gilded Legion, and no need to take the officer because mostly the Gilded Legion are going to be hanging out behind him. And the idea there is that he's got Armor of Dominion, so if they set up in a big long column of like 2 wide and 3 deep, then the enemy stands will mostly be in contact with him, so that the Armor of Dominion can get rid of their cleave and their smite, so that's a pretty big deal. The Gilded Legion will be going after his cavalry if he takes any, so the pie formation is going to be able to shut down most of the impact hits and get rid of shock and inspired, so that's going to be really strong. But overall, the Imperial officer doesn't make use of much of the new changes that have come out, so the theory is that he's better off with the shooting units nowadays, but we'll think about that after the game. Otherwise, just men-at-arms to scoring, love that unit. Steel Legion, of course, really, really handy. Over here, still running my setup of 3 Crimson Tower, 3 Ashen Dawn, just a nice efficient way of getting Ashen Dawn. I don't own any Sealed Temple, and I'm not even 100% sure that I like Sealed Temple yet. People are raving about them. They're very fast, very mobile. They did go up in points. I just think that Crimson Tower now represent the opportunity to crack a little bit of frontage armor, if you know what I'm saying, with a brutal impact. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. Mounted Noble Lord still giving him more of a whirl. Again, with the Knights, it's really a matter of how much points you invest in them. If you put no points into them whatsoever, just take a basic unupgraded unit of 3 Knights, it just can't. They can't do any fighting at all. They're just absolutely pathetic. But they're good at quickly racing along and capturing a zone, or maybe even just tying up an enemy shooting unit for a little bit. I've made an investment in Olefant's Roar and the Tourney Champion and 1 additional Knight. So with this setup, they can actually bash a light regiment pretty easily, but once they come up against a more serious fighting unit, they're just going to be there to delay and survive for a little while. Duelist is kind of nice under the new Mounted Lord for Clash. It impacts his impact hits, no pun intended. So going over to my opponent, he's running the Mounted Strategos. I think this is a really good Warlord at the moment. The Auxiliarch came down a little bit given that Ranging Guards have been slightly weakened, but I think he's still the other top contender. Mounted Strategos, obviously for 1 turn you can go up 1 tier of Dark Power, and you can potentially reach tier 4, but the real beauty of the Strategos is the fact that he can give your regiments a free reform at the start, end, or during. So what you can then do is with the Kataphraktoi, you can charge something, destroy it. If you've got a Hetairos, you probably will be able to beat it up pretty badly, and then you can reform and then charge again. So they become so dangerous against multiple small unit strategies where people are taking lots of screening units. And that, for me, is the real big draw of this sort of setup, where you can threaten to not just kill the screening unit, but charge a unit behind it and do a lot of damage. And you can make sure that you're going to have the Memories of Old Shock and Impact 1 from the Kataphraks by using his Supremacy ability. So he's a very, very powerful general. But the other thing that's changed here is that the Legionnaires now are like 100 points and 15 points for the Optio, which is almost mandatory. It's just really important for getting up the table. And that's partly because this new Memories of Old grants +2 stands for the purposes of seizing, which is really outrageous. This game is going to be a really good illustration of how powerful that can be, we're going to be watching out for this ability. They no longer have phalanx, so they're actually even worse against shooting now, so easier to pick off, but you kind of want them to die. So this change, in my view, has generally been a very big buff for Old Dominion. They get a free standard bearer, they march faster with the standard bearer, so that means their early game presence is much greater, and that's horrific because their late game presence is just as strong as it always was. They're the most powerful faction in the late game, bar none, because tier 3, tier 4 just gets really nutty. Archimandrite using the Unholy Sacrament, that is the best upgrade you can give him, in my personal opinion. The ability to cast his healing spell on any of the guys in his warband, and also Blasphemous Power if you really need it. Getting up to tier 3 for Inspired on your Bone Golems and Aura of Death. To get them up to Aura of Death 5 is just incredible. Auxiliarch, he's always been good with the Praetorian Guard. He's very tough nut to crack, and with AOD 4, that's very, very strong. And the Ranger Guards, even though there are only 5 wounds now, down from 6, they're still incredibly powerful. So that big brick, you know, there are not many things that can really deal with it in a straight-up confrontation, if you know what I'm saying. So let's get into this game. We have the game day on a Saturday every month or two, and here are the boys just getting set up for the games. My opponent there on the left, and our table on the left there. This is the setup. So you got Breakout with the 3 circles in the middle, and I'm going to be trying to destroy the objective on the left-hand side of that middle circle. And my two light units are the Squires and the Mercenary Crossbows. So rolling for it, only the Mercenary Crossbows come on. My opponent has no lights whatsoever, and as you can see, that hill in the middle of the table there, that's where they're setting up on. And the purpose of that is just to shoot that left objective so I can start scoring from the middle, and also the objective itself grants 3 points. Turn 2. So we've got the Noble Lord and the Knights showing up, and the Men-at-Arms and the Squires. I think that I picked up everything. There's the Squires, yep, Men-at-Arms. So I've got 5 cards altogether. And here we go. So the Squires are coming up through on the right-hand side. There is a tower right in front of them so that they have the choice of just diverting past to the left of the tower or to the right. Just we're going to wait to see when my opponent starts setting things up. So we've got 1 unit of Legionnaires already on the right-hand side, just the group of 3. Men-at-Arms on the left going for that other objective there, just trying to contest in the early game. And another unit of 3 Legionnaires opposite them. So it's just going to be, you know, a group of 3 mediums versus the equivalent for the other team. Mercenary Crossbowmen now moving within range. They are range 18. They need to be in effective range at half 18. That is 9 to hit the objective, which they managed to do. And opposite them, we see the unit of Praetorian Guards with the Auxiliarch. There are 5 of them by the looks, and obviously with a very scary Aura of Death. He doesn't really need to spread them out in a long line of 6, because you can easily do that later. Old Dominion are very good at combat reforms because they automatically pass the resolve check, so that's going to be scary in the middle of the table. One good thing, though, for me is that he doesn't have a shooting unit to take care of that objective, so at least it will take him a bit longer to get the scoring happening. On the right-hand side, I know that my Squires won't be able to kill the Legionnaires straight away, but these Knights certainly can, because his Legionnaires now have no phalanx, so if I charge in, he's saving all 1s. I should get plenty of hits with Olefant's Roar and the Duelist Knight Commander here. So that's what's going to be happening. This is also kind of useful because it means that when he sees the Knights, he knows that I'm going to be scoring straight away by busting up the Legionnaires, so he's going to inevitably bring in something really strong on the side of the table, and if it's something which is too strong and the Knights can't deal with it, they can always just run away and just let him have the zone, which is sort of part of the game plan here. Coming into turn 3, we are going to put the Mercenaries, Noble Lord, Priory Commander, Steel Legion, Squires, Crimson Towers, Men-at-Arms, and then the Knights. The Knights want to see what shows up this turn before committing. That's why they are last. And the Mercenary Crossbows, the only thing they're going to do is shoot the objective, so it doesn't matter what my opponent does. And then everything else in the middle is just a filler with characters. This is an overview here going into the start of the third turn. So you can see that what the strat is here. He's just bringing up 1 unit of Legionnaires on either side and bringing the Praetorians through the middle. And I'm yet to deploy the bulk of my army. I've mostly got screening units here. So next to the Praetorian Guards, he's got the Archimandrite. That's just going to go into the forest to make them a little bit more safe against the Mercenary Crossbows if I decide to start shooting at them. Speaking of crossbows, they're putting in a 2nd wound on this objective marker, so that's going to net me a few points, and it's going to mean that if I bring in something hefty into the midfield, I can potentially score, so long as I've got more stands on there than the Praetorians. Speaking of Praetorians, so they move in, and I'm just noticing here that he's got that friendly objective right in front of that corner stand there. And that means that if I'm a bit tricky about the placement of my units, he might not be able to move into contact with me in the way that he would want to. So I could potentially jam him up there, and if he's actually attacking that objective, he's got to clash it, and he's only going to do like 1 wound a turn with a medium regiment, as far as I recall. So that's the interesting strategy behind those little static objectives. Varangian Guards, there's all 5 of them coming on behind the Legionnaires on the right flank, my right I should say. So these guys will destroy the Knights very easily because they've got Line Breaker, Cleave 2, they can even go up to Cleave 3, and they've got Princeps, so they're going to be inspired. The Knights aren't going to do any damage to them at all. They've got Hardened, they've got 5 wounds, they don't take resolve checks. So this means that if I charge the Legionnaires in front of them with the Knights, I will then lose the Knights. The Varangian Guards will move onto the zone, and that will be that. Midfield, the Steel Legion moving on in a line of 4. I'm thinking about maybe spreading them out a bit, but the plan here is that the crossbows are about to destroy that objective up the top here on the left, and he's going to be blocked off by the other one. So if I move past, I might be able to get into a spot where 4 of my guys can fight like 2 or 3 stands of his, and it might just make it awkward for him, and hopefully I'll have more stands on the zone so I can start scoring. Over here, we're moving in with the Squires, and the thought process here is that if I let him charge the Squires with the Legionnaires, they aren't going to do a hell of a lot of damage. It's going to be like 13 attacks, half of them are going to hit, I'll save half of those, take a few resolve checks, I'll lose 1 stand. The Knights can charge from the flank, I lose them, and then maybe I can just hold off the Varangian Guards from scoring for a little while, or bring in another unit and try and take on the Varangian Guards. It just gives me a few options there. On the left, he hasn't deployed anything on the left-hand flank, so I'm going to sweep around here with the Crimson Tower Knights. Just waiting for his decision here. He might bring on the Bone Golems or the Kataphraktoi, and my response is going to be dependent on sort of which of those really show up here. If he doesn't commit anything, then I can sort of steamroll those Legionnaires with my Crimson Towers. So the Legionnaires move on. They put up Memories of Old, which means that command stand counts as 2 extra stands, so he's effectively got 5 medium stands on this zone. And this is where the real problem begins, and this is the thing that I want to talk about mainly in this bat rep, is that if I now march onto that zone with 3 men-at-arms, he will score. I'm not contesting. So in the early game, my opponent will get ahead of me on objective points, which is extremely bad, because in the last few games I've played against him, it's me scoring very early, because you've got the Imperial Officer coming on with the Rangers, you've got the Priest coming on with the Militia, picking up some early points, then he's moving on with the Militia, I'm still scoring, and then I'm still contesting, and then only in the late game does he completely thrash me when he gets to tier 3, and starts earning a lot of points then, but it becomes too late, I can just delay him and win that way. So now I can't do that because he's scoring earlier than I am, and once I kill the Legionnaires, get them off the zone, he's going to go up to tier 2, and it becomes really, really difficult after that. So this is a problem that we're now going to have to think about how to solve in this matchup, and that's a good thing. It's good that Old Dominion are like on a similar level now as factions that would normally just steamroll them, because in the previous patch I felt like Old Dominion just have no chance against Wadroon, Squires, and 100 Kingdoms. There's a lot of shooting, there's a lot of like high-paced, fast-charging stuff, and there's a lot of early game presence for those other factions, and Old Dominion just becomes too predictable, too easy to outmaneuver, too easy to outscore. But now we have a whole different ballgame. So as you can see here, the men-at-arms moving through unsuspectingly, like I didn't even realize at this point that that was going to be the case, so I'm just sitting up there, so if he does charge me, the Crimson Tower Knights can hit him in the flank and just wipe him out. But this is a problem. Over here, he's moving onto the zone with his Legionnaires, and he's only got 2 stands on there, but even though I've only got 2 stands myself, I'm not contesting, because again, he's got his Memories of Old up. He's actually got effectively 4 stands on there, and he will score on this side as well, which is incredibly annoying. Not going for the bait, of course, and we play on. So this is a really crucial moment in the game. The Varangian Guards don't have an activation here. I have decided to march and then charge with the Knights to wipe out the Legionnaires. This is going to give me the chance to score in this zone. And I felt like I kind of had to do this because it means that I don't fall too far behind on early game scoring. The side zones, again, are worth a bonus point at this stage. in the next turn, if I win the roll, I can charge Ranger Guards, and, you know, it'll mean that they take 2 more turns to get onto that zone, or I can back off. The problem is, though, that with this play, he could potentially charge me with the Ranger Guards by winning the roll, the Knights get wiped out, and he starts scoring straight away, and I'm in a real deficit and real losing situation in this game. But after thinking about it, I mean, what really went through my mind is that if I ran away with the Knights, then he can leave these Legionnaires here, and the Ranging Guards eventually move through, get rid of the Squires, chase them away, and for the rest of the game, he would be scoring that zone with the minimum investment of Legionnaires only. But the important part of it is, and this is really crucial, if the Knights wipe out the Legionnaires, and the Ranging Guards then come in and, you know, kill the Knights, the Ranging Guards are going to be stuck there for the rest of the game because they can't leave that objective, they have to score, and he's already committed all of his Legionnaires. So that means I can focus the entire remainder of my army on the other 2 zones. His Legionnaires will score on this zone, but if I can actually win the battle on the other 2 sides with superior units, I'll have 2 zones to his 1 zone for like the second half of the game if all things go well. So that's the thinking there, and that's the one weakness of Old Dominion that I feel like we can exploit, is that after they've committed their Legionnaires, you can make sure that, you know, they are going to be committed to certain parts of the battlefield with their heavy units, if they've built that kind of list. So here we are, the Knights charge in, they don't wipe out the Legionnaires because they are, you know, the Knights, they don't have veterans or anything. But the thing is, if I win the roll in the next turn, I should be able to clash and then charge. And this suddenly becomes even more crucial than I thought, because not wiping out the Legionnaires means that I have to win the roll here. If I fail it, then he could score for the rest of the game with just 1 command stand of Legionnaires, and that's just the worst nightmare possible. So yeah, that did put me in a bit of a situation. Over here, the Kataphraktoi, just deploying next to the Archimandrite. This is an interesting spot for them. I don't mind this because it's a really great place for me to sort of counter-deploy with my Gilded Legion. And I decided to try and outplay him by leaving the Gilded Legion until the next turn. I used my discretionary choice with flank to hold them off rather than deliberately bringing them on. It's so important to see where the Kataphraktoi are because they are just so badly shut down by the Gilded Legion, and I needed to be able to see that deployment. So here you go. Turn 4, the Knights have to go first, and I have to win the deployment. I have to win the supremacy roll no matter what, because they need to clash that Legionnaire, and then they need to charge the Ranger Guards. If that does not happen, the Ranger Guards could charge me, wipe out the Knights completely, the Legionnaire survives, and that's that. The only backup option, really, if that happens, is for the Squires to then charge in and try and kill that 1 Legionary and sacrifice themselves and contest the zone. So it's not all over there, but it's a really bad situation. The heavy infantry and the Ashen and everything else goes last because I need to see where they need to be effectively. Okay, so this is the overview of the table, and look, when you look at this, you can see what the situation is, can't you? If I don't win that roll, the Ranger Guards at the top right, they're going to charge into these Knights. The Knights are going to get wiped out, and then I'd have to charge the Legionnaires with the Squires. That is doable. But, you know, if they can't kill that 1 stand, then it's pretty much game over. Looking at it again, though, I think the chances of them killing that 1 stand are reasonable. They've got 3 impact hits, and they've got 12, 13 attacks at Clash 3, so it is doable against Defense 2. But that means me sacrificing 2 of my units for 1 of his, and then he scores the rest of the game with the Ranging Guards, and it's a matter of whether I can deal with the rest of his army, which, you know, it's possible, but it's just a bit awkward. So luckily I did manage to win the roll. That was really fortunate. The Legionnaires are wiped out with the clash action, and the charge action goes into the Ranger Guards. The impact hits barely do any damage to the Rangers at all because, you know, they're Ranging Guards, and then of course the Ranger Guards can attack back and completely obliterate the Knights. Fortunately for me, though, they have to use their clash action first. They then walk forward. They've got Princeps for Always Inspired, and they are still not scoring yet, so that keeps me in the game, really important. Over here, the men-at-arms charge the Legionnaires right in front of them and do a little bit of damage, but importantly, they are just trying to contest that zone. The really frustrating thing, though, is that if the Legionnaires put up Memories of Old, they could still count for like 4 stands just from that 1 command stand, even if they've lost 1. Over here we have the Praetorian Guards reforming just to become a bit wider for the use of, what do you call that thing, Awe of Death. Or of Death 4, which is quite punishing, and they are, of course, there to contest that zone for when I move on to it. Speaking of which, the mercenaries are able to shoot the remaining objective, picking up 3 points for me, so what can happen now is the Steel Legion can move through them onto that zone, and I have a really cunning plan here with that objective marker that is right in front of his unit. I can put my Steel Legion to the left of that, and I can sort of move in such a way that he'd have trouble wheeling past it. Over here, we have the Archimandrite moving on, trying to get a bit of a shot off, if you look at this photo, from the distance into the men-at-arms. So the men-at-arms have done 1 stand's worth of damage to the Legionnaires. They then suffer a stand loss of their own against the Archimandrite's nuke, and possibly taking some damage from the Legionnaires themselves. Over here, with the Varangian Guards basically stuck on that objective for the rest of the game, the Squires reform and move around. This is a situation where they are in charge range of those Praetorians, and if the Praetorians charge the Squires, well, that's a terrible mistake, because the Steel Legion would then be able to flank them, or move on to the zone behind them. If they don't do anything, the Squires can then charge the flank, and they will ignore shields, they'll have opportunists, and they'll be in a great position to attack through, and against 1 stand only, that's only 4 Aura of Death hits, rather than like 50 billion. Over here, losing another stand here to the Legionnaires. We have 1 stand left of men-at-arms, but they are broken, unfortunately, so can't currently seize. We are now moving around with the Crimson Tower Knights. These are reforming and just marching to the side a little bit rather than advancing further. And the important point here is that I didn't want him to charge the men-at-arms with the Kataphraktoi, break them, and then use the Hetairos to charge again through, you know, that zone and into the Crimson Tower Knights. Because it's not Supremacy turn yet, I don't have Blessed on the Knights. At a later date, I will want to sort of use Blessed when I'm expecting a combat, but the thinking right now is that I need to wait for the Gilded Legion to show up. I need to put them right in front of those Kataphraktoi, and then we sweep the zone and start scoring. So this is just a cautionary move. It means that the next turn I can march charge the Legionnaires, and I can put the Gilded Legion in front of the Kataphraktoi at the same time. Ashen Dawn, moving through this forest here. The thinking is that I need to just crush the center really hard, and I need to do it quickly, otherwise Aura of Death is going to be a problem. I know that he's also going to deploy his Bone Golem somewhere, so the Ashen Dawn will kind of be helpful at holding them off, but with the Squires going on the side of the Praetorian Guards and the the Steel Legion going off to the left, I feel like I can move the Ashen Dawn through the middle and get 1 or 2 stands in contact and try and beat them up that way. And I definitely don't want to go up against the Varangian Guards with this unit. I don't want to go to the left-hand side table because I'll have that covered with Gilded Legion and Crimson Tower. So this seems like the best spot for them. Bone Golems come on opposite the Ashen Dawn. They'll take another couple of turns to arrive. I might be able to get in the way of them with the Squires. But this is going to be a really problematic late-game unit because they are going to go up to tier 3 pretty soon, and the Archimandrite can heal them, and there's a squad of 4 of them. I've only got 3 Ashen Dawn rather than 4 in this list. So yeah, they are going to be a massive headache late game. Gilded Legion now moving up, and you can sort of see the strategy here is that the Imperial officer is in the front rank next to the command stand. He's got Armor of Dominion. These guys are actually also pretty good against the Varangian Guards because they completely shut down the cleave, which is great, and they have Bastion, and they pump out tons of attacks thanks to Relentless Drill. But the main thing is to Vanguard up here and then use double time to move right in front of those Cataphracts later. And the Cataphracts will be terrible against this unit because they'll lose 3 impact hits from the front, and they will lose Shock, they will lose Inspired. So, what they do is they move in and they hit the unit of men-at-arms, and I must point out that another thing controlling these decisions is that he is using a Supremacy this turn, and he wanted to do that to make sure that his Varangian Guards would be able to charge my Knights if he won the roll, which he didn't, so he's used it now. So the Kataphraktoi move in, they wipe out the men-at-arms, they are then turning around and moving back. And this is a really funny play. It's just a very defensive play, and he's done this because he feels intimidated by the Gilded Legion. He feels that if he moves forward and charges any further or just gets into a spot up there, he's just going to get attacked and loses key units, and I'm going to sweep the flank way too easily. And I'll be able to hold that flank with just one of those units, and then the other one will come through to the center and wipe out the Legionnaires. So he's just being very cautious. He wants to prolong the fight here. Getting to tier 3 or 4 will be really nice for him, so he's just stalling for a bit. So here's the fun play, and this is quite a clever play. The Steel Legion double march through onto this zone. They now have like 4 stands on this zone, so they'll be able to score. my opponent can't score here because of the objective there, and the thinking is that if he attacks me, he can't really wheel past that objective at all, because the objective really is supposed to be like a square stand, so that's how we're playing it. So if you wheel and end in contact with the Steel Legion, your base is overlapping that objective, which is an illegal placement for it. So the Praetorian Guards will not be able to charge my Steel Legion, even if he wins the roll. If I win the roll, I charge him, and I'm going to have approximately... God, I don't know how many is. Like, 4 times 6 is 20... No, it's... I've lost 20. 26 plus 4... It's about 30 attacks or so. So, if I can get in there before he uses Bastion, he's going to be saving on 1s, I think it is, and I'm going to have so many attacks there that that's going to basically cripple his unit, and then wipe him out the following turn, I think. So, turn 5, I think it is, Steel Legion have to go first. I must get that roll. I can't afford for him to use Bastion, and the Gilded Legion will go last, because they want to be able to basically move to wherever the Kataphraktoi end up. And that is the battlefield, starting turn 5, I think. As you can see, his Ranger Guards are about to move on to that zone to the right, but they're going to be stuck there for the rest of the game. He's going to be scoring a lot with them, but the problem is that that's a good 350 points of guys that will not contribute, and it gives me a chance to deal with the rest of his army and hopefully score from the other 2 remaining zones and getting myself an easy win that way. So this is a crucial opportunity to sometimes take advantage of against this faction, Old Dominion, is that they sometimes can only really score in the late game with a big fat unit, and if you can delete the Legionnaires or anything else smaller that's scoring, you have this option. So I do manage to win the Supremacy roll. Again, winning Supremacy rolls has been key for me in this game. Turns 4, 5, and I think 6, winning them, which is just huge. So the Steel Legion go in here, and this is one turning point in the game where I know that some people don't believe me when I say this, but the dice rolls for the Steel Legion was just catastrophically bad. Like, I mean astronomically bad. Let's just do some math. So they are Drillmaster, so 6 attacks per stand, 6, 12, 18, 24 in the front, 25 with the leader, and Relentless Drill gives me another 4, so that's 29 attacks. The Clash 3 with Inspire, so 4s. Let's get out the calculator. Here it is here. Alright, so 6 times 4 in the front, that's 24, plus another 5 from Relentless Drill on the leader, so that is 29. And let's multiply that by 0.66, because 2/3 of them should hit, so that should be 20 hits. And then how many of those are going to save? Like, he's defense 2 with a shield. Let's just double check that. Yeah, defense 2 with a shield. He hasn't used Bastion yet because they haven't actually activated. So he should be saving on 1s. So I think that if you multiply that by, let's just go 19 divided by 6. Okay, so he should save a few of those. So 16 stands, 16 wounds rather. So it should actually kill 3 stands. I got to tell you, it really didn't. It killed like 1 or 2 stands there, just because it was so shockingly small. So it's going to mean that the counterattack and the Aura of Death is going to be greater. Over here, the Archimandrite moves around, casts some spells. I think it was trying to nuke the, actually charge in here with the nuke somebody rather, and then charge in with the Legionnaires, doing a little bit more damage to the Steel Legion. I then charge into the flank with the Squires. 2 reasons for doing this. They still haven't used Bastion, so well, even with Bastion, I'm charging into the flank, and he's got shields there. So they ignore the shields, and I've got Opportunists, so this kills another stand. But the other reason for doing it is that it sacrifices them to the Bone Golems, allowing me to move in front with the Ashen Dawn and just have a bit of a game of chicken between the Ashen Dawn and the Bone Golems, and just keep them away from the objective, which is the main thing. And then if I can actually swamp the objective with these remaining Steel Legion and Bowmen, the Crossbowmen, that should be game winning. But now it's going to be a lot harder because my key move didn't really pay off. So there's the setup. He's still got 2 stands plus the Auxiliarch. They activate and they're attacking here, and it's just again Aura of Death 4 for everybody in contact. The character is actually quite powerful. Does a lot more damage thanks to this upgrade that he's got here, Anastigma. So 2 wounds inflicted for the purpose of testing morale. So that's quite nasty, doing even more damage with the Auxiliarch. But again, I feel like, you know, the Steel Legion should have done a bit better on that charge. We have the Crossbowmen trying to shoot into close combat, not getting a lot done, but it's good that they're there on the hill. And then on this side of the table, he's got his Legionnaires, which can again put up Memories of Old, but they are about to die. What's going to happen is that the Crimson Tower can march charge, and this is going to be the Supremacy turn, so they will have, well, I think it's either this one or next one, so they're going to be able to have the Blessed against the Kataphraks if they get countercharged. Over here, the Ashen Dawn just moving up, just so they can get past that objective, which still hasn't been destroyed, this little block here. That one's still sitting there, so the thought is that if he tries to march charge the Bone Golems, he's still only going to have 2 stands in contact. Although I'll take Awe of Death hits next turn, it might not be that many, and then I can hopefully just beat them down in the long game and deal with this unit in the meantime with the Steel Legion. So he's got his Cataphracts, they're moving around, turning around, and just getting back into position. That allows me to march charge the Crimson Tower Knights onto the objective. This will capture me some points, wipe out the Legionnaires, give them some more dark power, and it will be the next turn that I use the Supremacy ability for Blessed, because it means that if he activates first and charges me, the Blessed should stop him from doing too much damage. And another reason why I'm bringing Crimson Tower back is that they are 5 wounds each. That's a big deal. It makes it much less likely that he kills 2 stands and breaks me and gets to go again with his Hetairos, because at defense 4 going down to defense 2 with the rerolls and reasonable resolve in these guys, doing 10 wounds with those Kataphraktoi is quite difficult. Bone Golems now charge to the side of the Squires and wipe them out very, very easily, but it sets them up there for me to move in with the Ashen Dawn later. And here comes the crucial play, double time, marching with the Gilded Legion right in front of the Hetairos. The Kataphraktoi unit. This means that if I charge him first, that's really terrible for him. If he charges me, it's terrible for him because he's going to do no damage to the Gilded Legion, and the Crimson Tower are then going to charge him in the front, and we hopefully be able to deal with this unit pretty quickly, allowing me to turn around with the Gilded Legion, attack the Legionnaires in the middle, and the game will be going well. So this is an overview here of Ranger guys just camping. They can't do anything, thank God. But it's all happening in the middle of the table and the left-hand flank over the other side there. Another zoomed out photo. Yeah, big brawl in the center. I've still got 5 stands of Steel Legion, but the problem is now that when I activate them, they're going to take Awe of Death hits. So it's just not very nice. Steel Legion need to go first. This is important because they have to wipe out the Auxiliarch unit. They will take Awe of Death hits, but they have to wipe him out before he uses Bastion. I can't afford to just lose the Steel Legion and not have destroyed the Auxiliarch unit, because then he'll basically win. So that happens. The Ashen Dawn have to go next because I need to charge the Bone Golems before they charge me, and then it's just everything else activating. And once again, winning a crucial Supremacy role, and I felt like if I hadn't won these Supremacy roles, I would be pretty seriously losing this game. But with the Supremacy role won, I am now in better control of the situation. I lose a bunch of stands because of Awe of Death, but then with 3 stands activating, they can all go into the Praetorians before they Bastion. Very crucial, and wipe them out. Of course, that leaves me with just 1 stand left once he attacks back with the Legionnaires. And importantly, I am holding the zone. Although I think with them being broken, they probably won't. But at least he's not capturing it. That's the main thing. Over here, he activates his Kataphraktoi. He reforms so that he can actually drive past the Gilded Legion out of the way and into the Crimson Towers. Just desperate to get some damage done before he loses them. And because of Blessed, I'm saving on 2s and then re-rolling and saving some more on 2s, and the resolve checks aren't all going through. So I did lose 1 stand, and that's pretty much it. So I'm winning here. Ashen Dawn can now charge into the Bone Golems, do a little bit of work with impact hits, and then another 19 attacks with reroll 6s onto the Bone Golems to kill like 1 or 2 stands of them, which is great. Leaving them with 2 stands to attack back and doing some damage to me in return. So this fight will go the way of the Ashen Dawn eventually, allowing me to turn around, take the zone, and win. But the Archimandrite, getting up to tier 3 at the stage, able to heal quite a lot of wounds back on the Bone Golems, and that totally turns the situation around. The Imperial Officer charging the flank of the Kataphraktoi. The Kataphraktoi have reroll 6s on armor and tenacious, but I'm putting a lot of attacks on the side. So cleave, ignoring the shield, taking him down to saving on 2s. Plenty of attacks going in here, and this is just really hurting the Kataphraktoi unit very badly. Over here, the Archimandrite is still trying to deal with this unit of Steel Legion. So they do manage to do that, actually, by clashing and killing it, and then charging the Mercenary Crossbows. This is a great play because it means that he's capturing the objective and scoring, and he's stopping me from continuing to shoot at him. So this is quite good. Note that he's not picking up any points yet because there's still that scenario objective which is stopping him from continuing to score. But yeah, the Mercenary Crossbowmen pick up some knives and they start gutting them. One guy's dropped his crossbow. Better glue that back on, gosh. And doing a little bit of damage here, but not much. On this side, the Crimson Tower Knights activating and clashing and doing some more damage to the Kataphraktoi, but not that much. Through the front, there's the shield. They don't have any cleave, so we've got to wait for the Gilded Legion to activate again, basically. Varangian's just sitting there and just, you know, humming and hawing. Just moving around, just, you know, field maneuvers just for show. Alright, Ashen have to go first here. We need to do this before the Bone Golems make a wreckage of us, and then it's Gilded Legion to deal with the horses, and then everything else after that. But only 5-6 cards left. So Ashen Dawn, again, attacking the Bone Golems, losing a stand here to Aura of Death, but doing a bunch more damage to them. So just trying to hold them at bay for as long as possible. The Gilded Legion going into the horses here and just basically removing them at the stage. There's only like a character and one stand left, so they get wiped. The Legionnaires can now attack the Mercenary Crossbowmen and slaughter them, effectively. They're not going to be very good in close combat, those crossbow boys. The Crimson Tower Knights reforming and moving to the edge of that zone. So in the next turn, the Gilded Legion will move on to the zone to capture it, leaving the Crimson Tower Knights free to charge the center of the table and wipe out the Archimandrite's unit if they're lucky, and then hopefully score a point at the end of the game there to win in that zone. Varangian Guards moving around, threatening to charge the Ashen Dawn, but we all know that they can't afford to do that. My opponent will fall too far behind on points if the Varangian Guards leave that side zone, so that they're not going to be doing that. They're just sort of giving him the option at least. So my turn here, the Ashen Dawn having to go first again just to try and cripple those Bone Golems as much as possible before they overrun me. And then the Crimson Tower can hopefully go into the Archimandrite's unit. So I just want to talk a bit about the game state here. This is a point in the game where I'm actually winning. I'm ahead on points because I've managed to score a similar number of turns on the left as he has on the right. And there have been a few turns where I've wiped out these, where I've scored in the central objective with my Steel Legion. I've also killed one of the objectives to get 3 points, and I've killed his Warlord to get an extra 2 points. So I'm ahead by about 6 points here. What could happen soon, though, is that he could wipe out the Ashen Dawn and charge that objective with his Bone Golems, catching up by 3 points. And then he could actually score with the central zone and overtake me by in a couple of turns by scoring on that middle zone 2 turns in a row. And that will mean that he'll actually overtake me and win the game by like 1 point. So I was doing the math in my head and I thought, man, that does not sound very good. What if I can charge the middle low, wipe out his Legionnaires, and then score for just one more time with the Crimson Tower Knights and put him in a situation where he's like a couple of points behind, and if he charges the objective to wipe it out with the Bone Golems, he's not killing my Warlord and he's not scoring because I've got too many guys on there. But if he goes after the Crimson Tower Knights to wipe out the character, he's not killing that objective, he won't be able to score in the middle, and he'll still be behind on points. So that was the game plan. Over here, the Bone Golems, as you can see, have actually healed up quite a bit because of the Archimandrite. So while the Ashen Dawn should have been able to destroy them, given the fact that I won the Supremacy roll too many times, they are now being beaten up pretty badly. So we make the play. I thought about this, and I'm still not sure if it was the right move, but we've double marched here. So we've march charged here with the Crimson Tower Knights and the Lord here, and we're going into the flank, so no shields. They're saving on ones, and I've only got to do about 10 wounds to wipe them out, and that will eliminate them and allow me to score. So what happened here is that I left that unit on like one stand, and then he activated his Archimandrite immediately after that and brought some of them back, and then was able to turn around. I've got the Gilded Legion onto the zone, so that's just a mandatory thing that has to happen. And then if you look at the zoomed out photo here, we end the turn in a situation where I haven't actually killed his Legionnaires. He has wiped out my Ashen Dawn, and he is only like behind by like 6 points. So with like 1 or 2 turns left, what can happen now is that he can actually attack my last Crimson Tower Knight and kill it, picking up like 3 points or 2 points for my Warlord. He can attack the objective with his Bone Golems. They are heavy units, so he can actually impact hits and a clash to destroy it, and then he can actually score that middle zone, so he should actually win by 2 to 4 points. So that was terrible. This means that I absolutely have to activate first and win the roll and kill him with my Crimson Tower Knights, wiping out his unit with the Archimandrite. And unfortunately, I managed to lose that roll. The Legionnaires turned around and just killed me, and this effectively loses the game. So I did lose the game. It was a very close game. We ended up playing it out with the Bone Golems, and they charged the objective, and the impact hits failed to kill the objective. So that means that if I could not have possibly known that was going to happen, but if I'd known in advance that he'd be unlucky there, simply holding off with the Priory commander would have meant that I would have won that game by 1 point. But I couldn't have known that, so this is still the right play. At this point here, if I had won this particular dice roll for supremacy, what happens here is that, again, the Crimson Tower Knights attack this unit, they clash them from the side, they wipe them out, and then they would be scoring. And that would force him to move over with the Bone Golems to kill the Priory Commander, to get the Warlord, and he'd still be behind in points. Or if he attacks the objective, he's still not catching up on enough points. So it really did come down to that last roll. Now, I do have a few sort of late game things to say about this, and I hope you guys enjoy this bat rep. I really enjoyed this game. I think it was a great close game. But what I really feel about this game is that although I actually had better dice rolls than my opponent overall, because those supremacy rolls in turns 3, turns 4, turns 5 with the Knights and the Steel Legion, those supremacy rolls were absolutely clutch. I would have been really losing if I had not got ahead with those, and they put me in a position to win. So I was luckier in general. Even though the Steel Legion attacked poorly, and I didn't win the supremacy roll at the end, there were some plays that didn't go my way there, but mostly the luck and the dice of the game went my way. So there is that. And secondarily, I feel like I played better. I got the correct units against the correct things that they needed to go after on my opponent's side. I managed to get the Gilded leader into his Kataphraktoi, which is brilliant. Got the Ashen into his Bone Golems. That's where they want to be. I wiped out a lot of his Legionnaires. I have the Crimson Tower Knights going for the clutch charge at the end. Crossbowmen do a whole lot of work. The Steel Legion did exactly what they're supposed to do. I managed to ignore his Varangian Guards without having to commit to them. So I really felt like I outplayed him positionally. But the reason why I lost narrowly, and really should have lost this game, like I wouldn't really want to have a rematch with these army lists because I think that his list is better. The reason why I feel like I lost is that my strategy was inferior to his strategy. I'm playing 100 Kingdoms with a very late game focus, lots of heavy infantry, and not much early game presence. And he's playing a list which has three lots of Legionnaires who can just go and score early. And then in turns 5 to 10, he's going to dominate with the Strategos getting to tier 4, and so several powerful heavy infantry units like the Varangians and the Praetorian Guards, and of course the Kataphraktoi and the Bone Golems. They're all sort of great in the mid to late game. So the thinking is that this strategy for 100 Kingdoms just doesn't really cut it against Old Dominion. Even though I could have won that game, and I came very close to doing it, it's just not really the way to go. So my thinking is that if you come and look at this army list here, the way that I'd really prefer to do it in the future, and can't really wait to have a rematch with this sort of list, is to play the Imperial Officer from now on in this patch. Like, I'm never going to go back to the old Armor of Dominion style heavy infantry stuff. From now on, he's always going to be an early game shooter. So we're going to take battlefield drills, fire first, aim later, aim for the head. Even though this doesn't work against Old Dominion, that's generally the way to play it with this. And you really need to take advantage of the new changes with characters allowing you to use the draw event. Either Callus goes on there, and then you activate your big shooting unit. And I like the big, massive block of Imperial Rangers because you can start the game with them moving out 3 wide, 2 deep. Even though the back ranks can't shoot, when you do activate them, they've got liquid formation to bring out exactly the number of stands they need. You can move forward 5 inches, shoot something with a massive number of shots. The base 3 volley is the reason why he's good with them, with Eye of Achilles, because that really stacks. Did consider Hunter Cadre because they have a longer range, they have Fiend Hunter and Armor Piercing, and they don't die as easily in close combat. But, you know, the cost to shooting ratio, I prefer the Rangers because the liquid formation allows you to be mobile with that large stand size and gets you to a point where you can volley 3 with the rerolls on 6s and then pull back. And you also have some really great shenanigans with spinning them around, marching in the opposite direction. And you know, this kind of unit helps to punish those Legionnaires who are only defense 1, shield 2, no phalanx. And elsewhere in the list, you go for the Chapter Mage with Kiss Farewell, School of Fire. It's just the old classic setup. Nothing's changed about that, but the ability to put pressure on one stand of Legionnaires with this combo is really, really strong. So if you can basically activate after he's moved on to the zone with the 3 Legionnaires and pop the Memories of Old, you can probably wipe out a couple of stands if you attack them with the Mercenary Crossbowmen plus something else, like the Priest marching up 18 inches with Vanguard and using Focused on the Holy Fire, or just doing a crossfire with the Rangers and the Mercenary Crossbowmen onto the same unit if you really want to play both to that side of the battlefield. Thirdly, the Priest with the Militia. I feel like if we're going to run into so much trouble with Old Dominion and similar style lists, which are really crushing the late game, having some screening units in the way like Men-at-Arms here, and then coming in from behind with the Priest Bomb with a Legion Fragment, now that you can activate him first, get Blessed onto the unit, and charge with a Legion Fragment all in one activation, I feel like that's too good to pass up in this sort of meta now. And against those Bone Golems, those Praetorian Guards, this is just a real godsend. With Relentless Drill, you just need to make corner contact with their unit, and you're pumping out enough damage to really wipe out like 3 Bone Golems or like 4 stands of Praetorian Guards or something, and that's just such a good trade for this unit. The other great thing about them is that with the massive mobility in the early game with Vanguard from the Imperial Officer, getting in range to use Focused and Holy Fire is great for knocking out a unit of Strix or Raptor Riders or Hunters or something like that. Even against carries with their spell interference are still kind of helpful. So this is more of the setup that I'm going to be going for. You can still afford this unit here with Crimson Tower, Ashen Dawn, and the massive unit of Steel Legionnaires. You do need something there as a hammer unit late game to take advantage of all of your screening units. It's not really going to be viable to have just lots of like Goblin Horde light infantry, because you need scoring units at the end of the day. And when your opponent commits to you and charges you and kills one of your light regiments, you need to have something big and beefy behind them to punish them for that, deterring that kind of play, allowing you to get more shots off. So that's something I'm really looking forward to with 100 Kingdoms. But this latest game with Old Dominion was a great time, really close. And I'm just really glad that Old Dominion are at the strength level now that you sort of have to treat them as an equal and sort of fear them. Previously, it was just a bit too easy to outscore them in the early game and delay late game. And yeah, it just wasn't as close. So really can't wait to play them again, and hope you guys chill out for some more bat reps.